What do all of these plants and this big giant stick all have in common? Stay tuned to find out. This beauty right here beside me is a monstera deliciosa. They can get extremely tall and have leaves that are 3 to 4 feet long, like the top of this right here. But how is this green stick going to make more leaves and become anything more than just a big green stick? Well, similar to all of the plants in my hand, there is some magic that happens with these vines. And the secret is all right here in this puppy, this beautiful spot. This is called the node, and it contains everything needed to produce the next set of leaves, similar to the eyes on a potato. So, how does this plant do that? Well, it does it in a similar way to this potato, in that each one of these segments of this plant contains everything that would be needed for the next generation of plants to be produced. So this plant is going to become one or several new plants. Each one of these growth points can produce a new leaf and new set of roots to become its own new plant. You can see up at the top here where the leaf was going to come in, but because it was pruned, it's going to put all of its energy into making new roots and staying alive, so this leaf may not open. But this leaf, compare it to my hand, it is a big leaf. And each leaf is wrapped in this nice protective coating, this brown, thick layer that keeps the leaf safe until it is ready to grow. It has this spiked portion, which sort of protects the leaf as well. And it grows out from the node. So you can see how it has come out of a node here. You can see the extra sort of brown around it that is the same as this section here. And you can see here a leaf that had come in and was cut off, but isn't that just the biggest leaf you've ever seen? It is phenomenal to me that this plant is just so large. And around it you can see this brown section here and the segment in the plant. So each plant is divided into sections. And this particular piece of the plant is the top of the plant. So this is the part of the plant that was at the very top. And it is the part of the plant that was going to make the vine stretch up the tree even further, produce new segments, and keep growing the tree and keep growing the vine, make the vine longer and taller. But we've cut this section off and taken it for ourselves. So it is going to produce for us the next set of very large leaves, because it has in it the memory of that large leaf. But these sections down here, if you were to prune them off, they wouldn't make those large leaves. They would make smaller, immature leaves, little baby leaves, because that is how one of the ways this plant reproduces. So it can break off segments if it is damaged and regrow either from the vine if it's still attached, or the piece can hit the ground if in the correct environment with the right moisture and humidity levels and make a new plant. So that is what we are going to be attempting to do with this plant, to make ourselves a big plant, a nice jungle in the house. So in order to grow this plant, we're going to have to divide it up, but before we do that, we're going to set up the places that it is going to grow. Its home for the next few months until it is settled and becomes a nice, big, beautiful plant. So, what are we going to use? Well, to grow it in, we're going to use some good old-fashioned potting soil. So there are several different mediums that you could use, potting soil being one. A couple of others are sphagnum moss, perlite, and water with an aeration system, though the water method can sometimes cause damage and death by rot of the plant if you do it wrong and has a higher failure rate. So we're just going to use soil for this one, a good old tropical blend of potting soil with all the good things that it needs. Next, we need a container. So one of our containers is going to be this. This is a container from the salad mix that I eat every day, but the next thing that I'm going to set up along with that salad container is this. We're going to set up a full-on terrarium with LED lights so we can watch some of the plants grow really well and be able to have high visibility to see everything. And it's going to allow us to have a nice place where they can get tall and big and strong. So we're going to set this up with our soil at the proper moisture level to promote humidity and good growth of the roots of the plants. And we're going to go ahead and start that setup right now. Here she is. One final look at her. This gorgeous, beautiful monstera cutting. The biggest plant I've probably ever owned in terms of just sheer size of the leaves and thickness of this plant. And she is so magnificent and glorious. It's gonna be sad to cut her up into different pieces. So before I do so, I just want to give you one last look at this plant in its entirety so that you can fully appreciate how large she is. lot of work, like at least 10 minutes of cutting. Here are our 3 sections of our wet stick that are to be planted. So there's this one, that's just the 1 node. This one that's got 2 nodes, possibly a 3rd functional one down at the bottom. And this one is the very bottom of the spike, so I cut it off and it's going to be by itself. Then we have our top of the spike with our big beautiful leaf on it, and that one's going to be planted on its own in a great big flower pot. So we'll set it aside. So this one and these wet sticks here are going to be planted together in this terrarium, and this wet stick will be by itself because it has a little bit of damage and a hole in it from just being outside on the tree that they were grown on. So I don't want it with the other ones, but we are going to go ahead and plant these guys, and all we're gonna do is set it right on down in here like so, and cover it with a little bit of soil, but making sure it's not covered too much. And now we will set these in here. This one is a giant jade pothos, a golden Hawaiian pothos, which is a really big variety of pothos. And then these 2 are Cebu Blue, which is another climbing vine. Just set these on in here with our lid. And our nice LED light adjusted over to a white light so that we can see these plants really well, and we'll get to watch these grow, and then go ahead and set our last one up in its own container here. Now this may not have enough ventilation for this plant, so I'll probably be propping this lid open or adding vent holes. We're just gonna cover it up like so, and I'll probably just leave the ends exposed on this one, and just that node will be open. Hopefully it doesn't rot. It's got this big lump here, which reading on some of the other varieties, that's one of our leaf buds. So I'm hoping that is an auxiliary bud. I'm not quite sure because I couldn't find a video that describes something this large, because normally the auxiliary buds are a little closer, so I don't know. But this area feels a little softer than the rest of the stem. So it could just be a soft spot, or it could be where the leaf comes out. I'm not actually certain. So we'll see on this one. I'm really interested to see how this grows. So that's all of those planted. And then I have a flower pot prepared for our big boy. So took a bit of trial and error with this one, but I was able to get it set up. This is just 3 stakes and then a bit of masking tape, and it works extremely well for this plant. And you can see it sits in here nicely, and then I'm just going to bury part of this plant in the soil and keep it moist. And hopefully that bottom node there will form the roots that will be the base of this plant. And then we'll see what happens with this big nice leaf up here, if that turns into anything. And this is gonna go in a nice spot in the living room, as well as these other things. I will find them a nice warm spot. And that's all for this bit of planting. So everybody is all set up and ready. That's it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you would like to see how these plants grow, go ahead and subscribe and I will keep you posted on the progress. So thank you for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.